Hello, how are you doing? So, this is Srinivasan yet again. I'm going to talk about the topic on inflation, and this will be a concluding talk on inflation, and also this will be a talk that will kind of take you to the next set of talks that I want to do, which is about business planning. So, now we will talk about what do we do. We have understood quite a lot of things about inflation in the earlier talks. Now that there is inflation, what do we do to inflation? What are the tools that we can do? Are we really helpless in the fight against inflation? Is inflation some kind of a monster which is which is there? And so let's understand a little bit about that, right? I think I don't believe, honestly, I sincerely believe that inflation is also a tool. A savvy and a smart business entrepreneur will actually use the inflation to get to his business goals. Because if you know the story of the frog, they say that if you throw a frog into hot water, it will jump out. But if you keep frog inside cold water and slowly heat the hot water, it won't even know and it will eventually die. Inflation is like the frog story. And if you don't know that there is inflation, and if you are not aware, since inflation, as I mentioned earlier, it has this Kager effect. It will automatically compound. Inflation is the only thing that just compounds. If 10 will become 11, and then if there is inflation on 10%, it will be on 11. So it will be 1.1 next time. So then it will be on 12.1 in the next time, right? I think it will just keep increasing. Let's understand this. So inflation will increase at a compounded rate of growth, and as a result of which, where it will eat into, if it is not acted upon, it will eat into the margin of the entrepreneur. So ultimately, if you are not savvy, if you are not aware of inflation, you will pay a heavy price. You as an entrepreneur who is running a small and medium business, in CFO Bridge, we are concerned about the small and medium business promoters, right? So and also we are concerned about the startup entrepreneurs also. So we have to have a very deep understanding of inflation. And the way we need to do that is that we need to actually feel powerful. We need to feel that we are empowered, that we can actually do something about it. So now, how do we go about it, right? I think, if you establish a clear database, and if you see the unit cost of your expenditure, take various expenditure, take some salary. In salary, you please look at 5-6 different positions and look at, various SKUs of the materials that you are buying, the services that you are buying, and analyze them on a per unit basis. Like, for example, if you want to analyze the price for just simplicity's sake, you look at a pen and track the price of the pen over the last 3-4 years time, and you will have, if you are a guy who is regularly buying a lot of pens and pencils, you will have data. So put the data in an Excel sheet and find out what is the inbuilt cost in it, what is the Kager effect of the inflation in which you are actually buying. For every single expenditure, please track it out, what exactly is your inflation. And you can simply do that in a very simple way. Take an Excel sheet and then key in a unit of that expenditure. Don't key in the whole of the expenditure, because whole of the expenditure is not the right way of looking at it. It can go up and it can come down. Look at every unit of that expenditure. Track that over at least 4 years or 3 to 4 years time, so that you get a little bit more reliable data. And then find out the unit cost of increase or unit cost of inflation in each of the components. And then you will also arrive at what is the overall increase in cost. So the unit cost will actually tell you a very different story. Some unit cost will actually go up, some unit cost will go up significantly, some unit cost might actually come down. And then you will have a weighted average cost of the overall inflation in your cost. So you need to know, if as a promoter, you must know what is the inflation of your cost, and that can be differentiated and segregated between the direct cost and the indirect cost. Because the direct cost is something that you have to price it, you have no choice. You have to price it and you need to recover it from your customers. And the indirect cost, you have an option of pricing it because somebody has to pay for it. Ultimately, it is the customers have to pay for it. But you have an option of keeping some more efficiencies there. You can look at them saying that, look, am I going to keep on increasing this expenditure or am I going to reduce some expenditure? You can look at it. But on your direct cost, if there is an inflation, you have no choice other than, including that in your price for the your output. So understand the inflation impact or inflation embedded in your direct cost and in your indirect cost using the example that I told you. Then you will have an idea of what is the inflation. Now do the same thing on the unit cost of your sales. If it is material SKUs, look at all the inflation that you are able to do that on your SKUs, and do the same thing on your services. Then you will know what is your ability that you are able to pass on this inflation to your customers. And then within that, you will also, once again, like the cost elements, which are various, same way you will also know your sales elements. There will be certain products where you will be able to better pass on the prices to the customers. If your input cost is 10% for that particular product, maybe you are able to pass on to the customers. So in general, right, in an Indian scenario, in an SMB scenario, customers will be willing to accept some level of inflation. It is given. Don't shy away from asking for that increase. That increase is embedded into the system, and some level of inflation is acceptable to the customers. Customers do pay for it. And you will actually see it if you really look at your unit cost of sales. So some customers will pay for it, some products will pay for it, and more interestingly, some geographies will pay for it. So you got to understand where you are having pricing power, which product you have got better pricing power, which means what is pricing power? Where your ability to pass on the inflation, more than inflation, to your customer is your pricing power. So if the inflation, your organizational inflation and the particular product inflation is X%, and if you are able to pass on more than X% to your customer, then that is your ability to price higher. It's called your pricing power. Now the pricing power, you got to measure it, and you will understand that, wow, okay, we got pricing power on this particular product, therefore we can actually increase a little bit more. We have got pricing power with respect to this particular customer, or we have pricing power with respect to this product and this customer in this geography. So you got to, you need to understand your strength very well, right? Like how the strength of Hanumanji was revealed by Jambavan. So you got to know, once you understand it, then you will kind of have an idea as to where are the variables, where you will have the levers, how you can actually increase the prices. Now this is very important. Please understand this, very, very important, that the time gap with which you are loading the inflation of your cost into the loading of your prices into your material or your services is called the lag effect. Now the lag cannot be more than 3 to 6 months time at the best. You have to have systems and MIS and information in place to understand, and that your lag is not more than six months. And CFO Bridge has invariably helped our clients in identifying the levers of inflation and ensuring that the customers are able to take corrective action, either in terms of reducing the cost or in terms of increasing the prices. One of them has to be done. So this is called the lag. And if the lag is more than 6 months time, then there are two problems will happen. One, you would have lost significant amount of money, which is irrecoverable. You can't go back and increase the price retrospectively. And second thing is, 6 months time means customers get used to it, and it will be very difficult, right? It is like very difficult to change the price for a customer who are used to a lower price. So you got to understand the importance of the lag effect, how you should actually go ahead and price it. Now we also look at another tool, right? We talked about the inflation. Now let us look at what do we do with respect to cost, and how do I rein in on inflation in the cost. Now, when it comes to cost, it is a secular approach, which means an approach where you will just look into all cost is very important. If you want to say, for example, cut your cost, I would suggest take a percentage and cut all your costs. The moment you provide a sanctuary to some cost and say that this cost is a holy cost and therefore we are not going to touch this. That means you will never be able to do this, because one by one you will see cost will jump into the basket of the holy cow and you will never be able to touch any cost. And everybody will say, no, this cost is very important, that cost is very important, and stuff like this. And therefore you will not be able to cut a cost. So when it comes to cutting cost, take a very equanimous approach. Don't have any desires and hatreds for any particular cost. Take a very equanimous approach and cut all cost. So that's why I call be secular about it. Now, second is very important thing is about understanding the price increases. And in general, right, in general you don't discuss the price increase with your marketing and sales team. They are the last people who are going to agree to a sales price increase. So you got to be absolutely, once again, because the sales price increase is required for you to maintain your target return on equity, return on investment, the level of profit that you want to have in your company. So the promoter has to drive the cost cutting decisions. The promoter has to drive the increase in sale price decision. These two things, you can consult your finance department. You should consult your finance department, but they will, more often than not, they are trained to be very secular in the approach to cutting costs. And then there is another concept which I have also been advocating for quite some time, that when you are reviewing costs, you don't just get taken by this concept called fixed cost. I think I have grown up to believe that there are no fixed costs. All costs are variable, all costs are discretionary, and all costs can be cut. This is my humble opinion. With a cost which can't be cut, then you will have to increase the price to the customer. Simple. So have that clarity. So you must respond to the clarion call of cost control in your organization. So every year, as you are making your business plan, you just don't say that my cost will go up by 10%. No, you just there is a concept called zero based budgeting. So go into the zero based budgeting, put all your expenditures to zero base, and rein in all the cost. Look at every single cost and then say that what costs that you are going to keep, what costs that you are not going to keep. It's a very, very important information. And then inflation control is a very, very important competitive tool in the hands of the promoter, because you will have to increase your prices, but it also gives you an ability to position yourself in a very competitive way with respect to your customers and your competitors. And then you can actually find out, saying that, look, yeah, okay, so this customer I am going to keep. So you can put in a lot of qualitative aspects to this. That's why they say that costing is a science, whereas pricing is an art. Okay, so it has to be done very tactfully, it has to be done artfully. But in business planning, understanding of the inflation and how one should take decision about it is very, very underappreciated. So I have given you points to make it really you feel that you have the power over inflation, and then you will have a lot of tools to understand the inflation and then manage the inflation. And managing the inflation, understanding the inflation is the first step in business planning. And this is the month of February and March. You guys will all be making a business plan for the next year. And if you understand how inflation impacts you, I'm sure you will make a cracker of a business plan. I think we have shared all our experience with you, and I am available for contact at Srini@CFOBridge.com. That is Srini@CFOBridge.com. And please refer to our website, CFOBridge.com, if you need further assistance. Thank you.